You guys don't get it? Like,
No, we get it. Hey, welcome
Who Stephen
to.
Wright is, dude.
Wow, you guys won't even let me talk. I'm the fucking host. These assholes won't let me talk.
Sounds of the 70s. Fucking.
wow. Brandon only has
I can't remember what the name of the disc jockey was, but
Welcome.
Brandon only has from the forehead up. Look at that.
Wow, I can't even fucking do this.
No, you can't. We hijacked your show.
All right.
Like Max Headroom, if anybody remembers that guy. I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Max. Take us away. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, boys and girls and losers out there, welcome to another review of another movie by us idiots for you guys, for your viewing pleasure. We're doing today Naked Gun 33 and a third. It is not Naked Gun 3. The producers and creators of the series were smarter than that. So 33 and a third. So guys, I'm going to kind of guide you through this whole process of us reviewing films and things like that. But my first question to you guys, and I think it's kind of one of the things, not even a question, but more of a commentary of how great Leslie Nielsen was. Not only as an actor, but as just someone, in my personal opinion, who made me laugh the most out of any other person. Like, I love Jerry Seinfeld, I love Bill Burr, I love all these other comedians, but I would say Leslie Nielsen has made me pee my pants several times, especially at a young age. So I guess I want to ask and go around, and we'll start with Derek first. What are your memories of Leslie Nielsen? What are your kind of accolades or commentary you want to give on the late great Leslie Nielsen?
So one of my biggest things was I was always a huge fan of like cartoons where random skits would happen, or you would say a word which would trigger a joke that had nothing to do with the actual scene itself. And a lot of Leslie Nielsen movies were like that. They took pop culture references at the time and then kind of spliced them together. Like one of the great skits from Naked Gun 33 and the third is with Phil Donahue. I fucking hate Phil Donahue, and I hope he's watching this right now because then he'll realize I fucking hate him. However, he did a nice spin on Phil Donahue, where he portrayed him and progressed the story of a movie, which was amazing. But there's a lot of great slapstick comedies, and just his delivery. It's not even like he delivers and then he sits there and he laughs, like waiting for a laugh. He does it so subtly and so it's almost like it's his first. I can't even think of how I would produce this. It's pretty much his just Leslie Nielsen being Leslie Nielsen, and his delivery and his punch are amazing.
Well, we shot a lot of people together. It's been great. But today I retire, so if I do any shooting now, it'll have to be within the confines of my own home. Hopefully it'll be an intruder and not an in-law like at my bachelor party. And
so that's what I've always loved in all Leslie Nielsen's films, whether it's in Naked Guns or, Wrongfully Accused, which is by far a very underrated film. In fact, anyone watching this, please watch that movie. But also at the same point, too, I also am a firm believer that Leslie Nielsen had a good story behind him in the case where he tried to be a serious actor, and it never worked out for him. So he ended up shifting his career to a more comedic element, and that worked out in spades for him.
I want to have a baby, and every time we start to make love, you have a headache.
I'm not a piece of meat, Jane. I'm trying. I've got ointments, lotions, creams, books, things that vibrate.
Definitely like parroting off of what Derek talked about. One of the biggest things, and this wasn't like watching, like the wonderful thing about watching Red Letter Media is that they actually hit on certain things when they do certain like pieces for like Half in the Bag, and they talk about interesting films that like I would be interested in. But the review series, and they brought up Top Secret, which is a Zucker brothers film. This basically like Airplane, Top Secret, the Naked Gun series, Police Squad. These were all Zucker brothers films. They have a very specific style to them. And Leslie Nielsen somehow worked because he was very good at playing like a straight character. And it's perfect for their comedy because while something is being like represented straight, there's absurdity happening like in the background. There's always a gag or a joke that's going on. And that's, I think, where Leslie Nielsen was able to like really shine in this aspect. Like he was able to just like be a good actor, like take roles seriously. He reminds me of remember in Private Parts, that fucking British dude, like the Howard Stern movie, the British dude, that Ross Buckingham or whatever, that like goes on with him after everybody gets fired.
You're talking about the guy delivering the news, right?
Yeah, he replaces Robin basically. Like I feel like that's kind of like how Leslie Nielsen would be like looked at and portrayed to people. Like he's that type of straight-laced person where he could deliver lines, he could use his chops to like nail on something specific. But the fact is they utilized him in a way where he was actually like creative, in that his dialogue is like a juxtaposition to what's happening. It's funny. It takes you like out of the element of like what you're hearing from him, and you get to like witness the scene that's actually being filmed that's like completely different.
I could have 2 lovers.
Kinky, but I like my sex the way I play basketball. One-on-one and with as little dribbling as possible.
One of the ones on there that I love is like a midget at a urinal. I had to stay on my toes, you know?
Yeah,
and then you sit there
I
and you
typed
think
that
about
out.
it, you're like, you know?
Well, because it builds from that. Because the first thing he says while he's trying to feel out prison or whatever, because that's when he gets in the car with Rocco and his mom. But before that, it's like like a blind guy at an orgy. I had to feel things out.
Yeah.
I typed that out as well.
Now I had to get on the inside. Like a blind man at an orgy, I was going to have to feel things out. Rocco's mom was quiet. I had a feeling she didn't care for me coming along. Like a midget at a urinal, I was going to have to stay on my toes.
Those little jokes are hilarious to me.
So let me move on to my next question, which is kind of random. Well, not really random, but if you can remember, do you remember when you saw this movie? This came out in '94. Do you remember where you were when you first saw this movie?
I remember watching this in my living room.
Yeah, at home
on HBO, and I remember seeing Anna Nicole Smith. And at that time, Anna Nicole Smith was like,
she was popping, and she did like Skyscraper where you saw her titties, and like, you know, she was in Playboy. Like, I mean, yeah, Anna Nicole Smith was like popping at that point.
Seeing her in this, and you were just like, wow, like I'm really like, you know, I'm really like, you know, I'm starstruck by her. And then you end up finding out that she has a penis at the end, you know, and you're just kind of like, well,
that's funny because that's culturally relevant to The Crying Game, which had come out right that time, and Ace Ventura. I think
that might have been like a nod to that as well, because Ace Ventura was really the one that like parodied like the whole thing. Like it was specific in the scene, like in the shower, you know, like it was all very like relevant to like how that worked. But yeah, I think that was kind of like a nod to that, you know.
Because it talks about certain movies and things of that nature that were going on at that time. Like, obviously, the pop culture references, even though the beginning is the Untouchables reference with the baby carriages and all that dream and everything like that.
Which is by far
that's what it was. I was trying to recall, like, what fucking movie it was, like, making fun of at that point. But, yeah, it's the Untouchables. That's what it is.
By far, one of the greatest openings of all time. Especially when the postal work. Well, first they're like, "Oh, here's the president," and it's a shitty Bill Clinton. And then they're like, "Oh, by the way, the Pope right behind him." Somehow in this fucking.
And then there's like a fucking Allah Akbar fucking terrorist that like tries to blow him up. I don't even remember that. I saw that. And I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, he like shoots him, and then all of a sudden a bunch of postal workers come out, like 10 of them, and then randomly.
Well, that makes sense because there was, I think, around the time there was like there was an issue with like a postal like rage reacted or something. There was some situation. That's why the video game Postal came out, and Postal 2,
which came out to a film as well, which not a lot of people know about. But that whole scene is just ridiculous because there's legitimately like when Frank Drebin's sitting there shooting, the babies that hit they go down the stairs, they hit a chair to sit on, and then they fly out, and it shows OJ, and he's like catching them,
Does he
like in the
spike one of the
background,
babies?
like how we were talking about. And then
Does he like fucking football
and then he
spike
catches
one and he
one,
like does like
and
a
he's like
touchdown
going
dance or
like
something?
this. He's going like this, and then the mom comes over and she's like, "What are you doing with my kid?" or whatever, and you're like, "Oh, silly OJ."
The funny thing about Nordberg is that me and you have had this conversation before. Nordberg wins the lottery.
He does win the lottery.
His reaction when they're calling out the lottery numbers
for sure wins the lottery.
It's like indicative that he wins the lottery. It's so fucking funny. Like OJ, if he wasn't a murderer, he would be a great actor. Like, I mean,
and that's what's great about this film is like it kind of depicts police as real police. They're all running out to solve the crime, and then as soon as the lottery number comes up, hold on. Actually, hold on. I might win the lottery. Or
that's
I
not
might
how real police operate. What the fuck are you talking about?
I like the
all right. We're getting off track here because you guys do your idiotic rambling always. So basically, you talked about OJ, and I want to come back to that. And we touched on Anna Nicole Smith, and I'll come back to that too. But when you talk about a movie like this, and you talk about the style of the Zucker brothers and the things that they were doing at the time, why did these movies go away? And we had a revival with the scary movie stuff, but that was the Wayans trying to do it.
Well, but it wasn't the same because the thing is those like, and again, I hate to reference Red Letter Media because I really am super fond of them, but Jay makes a really good point when they talked about Top Secret in their review. And the point that he makes is like with these newer style parody films, they just parody like trends. It's not like an actual joke. Like that's what the Zucker brothers were good at was like, especially in Top Secret, like perspective gags of like a giant fucking phone. Or like the shoes being like up on a desk and then the person moves and the shoes are still sitting there. Like shit that it makes sense to people that understand filmmaking. That's like one of the things about the Naked Gun series, and especially with like the Zucker brothers, like all of their films. Like they're weird and you have to kind of like be into that type of humor to really get it. I don't think everybody would watch that and be like, oh, this is funny. I think people like that understand what the joke is are the ones that are like in on it. It's kind of hard to explain, but like all of these parody movies, like A Haunted House and Scary Movie and like all that shit, they just basically took like concepts that people were familiar with and then they just like made them look stupid, and that was the joke. But the Zucker brothers just made jokes. Like, I mean, you're literally watching a movie and then all of a sudden something else is going on while you're watching the fucking movie, like in the background, like kind of like a Citizen Kane, that like the blocking is set up where you're watching something that's in focus, that is your main focal point, but in the background, like all of this random shit is going on. And that's like the joke. That's the gag, is like, it's just weird. There's like not really a reason why it's there. It's just, how can we make a joke? It's creative. It's clever.
It's dropped on into subtle comedy, and I think that what you're getting at, the point you're trying to make is these new ones. I do like the first Scary Movie. The first Scary Movie was really good, but
first one was great. Yeah.
But then what ends up happening is they latch on to different trends and they latch on to different things going on in society, which you should have some pop culture references, don't doubt. But watching just segments of 33 and a Third, like when he goes to the doctor clinic, that is a whole gag. That whole thing is just one giant gag of him just jerking himself silly.
Do we know each other? I don't know if I know us. Number 17, after he just got out. Oh, well, I guess this is me or whatever, Are you having some trouble in there or whatever? And she's like, do you want to film?
That's the whole gag. That's the whole gag is him just jerking himself silly,
And she's like, do you want a movie? He's like, do you have Dances with Wolves? And then she's like, I got something a little more adult entertainment wise or whatever. It's like Major Hooters. Just stupid, but
you want to know what's super funny about the scene that you're referencing is the fact that Leslie Nielsen, like after he jerks off and he's all like disheveled and everything, he looks like Jesse Cornejo waking up.
Wow.
Like I swear to God, like because Jesse's crashed at when I at my old place, he's crashed and literally waking up, he looks the fucking same. He looks just like him. It's so fucking funny. I laughed my ass off. I typed that. I was like, Frank jerking off looks like Jesse Cornejo waking up. I think that's hilarious.
Like the first time he comes out, he has like a cigarette in his mouth, and then the second time he has like glasses, and they're like this.
They're all like crooked. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, how's it going? And then the third time, just there's no glasses. He's just like, yeah, here, take like 9 cups of my fucking cum, because I'm out of here or whatever. And then he goes and he like pours the ice on the couch, and he like sits down to like relax. He's like, oh. Yeah.
So that brings to my next question: would a movie like this get made today?
No.
Unfortunately, no. Yeah. I mean, I just think that, first off, there probably aren't a lot of filmmakers that would try to make something along this style. I just think that kind of the market that pushes a lot of people now is to get in, make something that has a good turnover, and that's like your focus. It's more of a machine now. Whereas if you go back to like the 70s and 80s, that was when they were just like making whatever. And they were like, hey, let's fucking do it. Let's make this. Let's do this. Let's spend money on this. Like there was a lot more leeway with, I feel, the creative aspect of filmmaking, especially when it came to stuff like this. Because again, this is not like a comedy that I could recommend to like everybody. I can't tell people you're going to love Naked Gun. Because if they don't understand like why the gags are the gags, they're not going to get it. It's not like a Judd Apatow like comedic line where, oh hey, you're a fag or blah blah blah. Like how we like do whatever, how we justify whatever conversation. It's the fact that like, it's random. It's so random, and I don't know if people are really like focused on doing something like that.
I like that scene when he's like in prison and like when he first comes in and it shows the first guy and he's like, it's like, oh, I'm with the toughest of the toughest. And it shows the guy, he lights like the cigarette with like his beard. And then it shows the next guy and he has a torch and he lights it on his face and he has a cigar.
Yeah.
And then like he throws him in the cell or whatever. And he's like, kill Whitey. And he's like slamming Whitey up against the bars or whatever. And they're like, oh, for a canary, you're chirping awfully loud or whatever.
Well, that's Fred Ward.
And that's where we get introduced to the wonderful Fred Ward.
Yeah, Fred Ward is gold. That motherfucker, he is such an underrated fucking actor. And, like, I'm really surprised that he wasn't utilized more in Hollywood to do, like, more roles, He appeared in some stuff every here and there. I mean, obviously, like, his legit thing is Tremors. Like, I mean.
His best film, Tremors 2, absolutely.
No, even in the first Tremors, he was awesome in the first Tremors. He's funny in the second one because Brady's a good character in juxtaposition to Kevin Bacon's character. But yeah, I mean Fred Ward, like even in Road Trip, like he's legit. He's such a fucking, he's a great character actor that can act like a fucking asshole or have like a gruff appearance to him, And he nails it. And I just feel like, he was super underutilized. Like, he should have been in way more Hollywood production, like bigger scale stuff. He should have been a character actor in way more stuff. Like, he's perfect.
But he was, though. I mean, you can't really justify that he isn't.
Hey, look, Mark Hamill. What? And then he takes the gun, and then it's Paul Feig. Just in the front, like, oh.
Paul Feig is in fucking this. Yeah,
Paul Feig is in this. Yeah. He's in the very front of the, he got frontline tickets to the fucking Academy Award, the 66th annual
Academy Award. It was the heavyweights money.
That's the joke, though. That's the joke of everyone that's in that crowd. The joke is that they're just like comedic writers, usually, most of them in the crowd anyway. They're just like.
I didn't know that, but okay, that makes sense.
They're all friends of, and even David Zucker's the guy on the teleprompter.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, I knew that.
I never knew that. Wow,
I knew that.
I had no idea. Oh my God. Read the cod, moron. That guy should have got more work after this film.
The guy's in a ton of stuff. He's in a bunch of sitcom crap, but like he's around. The thing about these movies is like they're labors of love, like Brandon was saying. Like the Zuckers knew what they wanted and how they wanted to do their jokes, and you want to watch. They're movies that you want to watch the entire frame, right? So with that being said, about we talked about that they couldn't make this today because I don't think they could because a lot of people are sensitive about a lot of these subjects, even though they're.
I think that there's a point in that, but I don't think it's really. I don't think that would be the issue. I just think that people. It's like a Napoleon Dynamite. Like it has a dry humor that I feel like only some people are like gonna get or like have respect for. You know? I feel like the style of what the Zuckers did, like to make it now, young audiences would be like, this is stupid. Like they wouldn't just like laugh at it because it's funny, you know? I think that's kind of the thing. Like it just sucks.
No, I think just nobody's smart enough like they were to incorporate because most of the scenes. And the best part of the movie, and I'm gonna ask you guys what your favorite part of the movie is. But honestly, when the Academy Awards happens, the movie takes off. It's amazing.
Honestly, that is like the movie.
Best actor in a Columbus film.
Nothing. That is the movie. Just that fucking dude directing, and he's like he's like roll the clip, aspirin freeze, go to 2. You know, that fucking dude, like, sets the whole tone of that entire fucking, like, last half, like, that last act, that third act. Like, that director he's, oh my God, look at Donahue. You know, like, his reactions to things, it really makes the movie. Like, it's hysterical.
Hold on, let's zoom in. The camera zooms in, and then the gun goes to the camera. Oh, no, that's too much. Zoom back or whatever, you know. We've come here to stop a travesty or whatever. You're already too late.
Yeah, yeah. Just his whole demeanor. He really like sets the tone. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like getting to that portion of the film is really the climax. And honestly, if that was just a half hour of being that, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, because every time it re-aired on HBO, you come to like a certain point of the film, and usually I got to like a point where I didn't really remember the beginning anymore because I remember them breaking out of prison, and then I remember him going to the Oscars, and the Oscars is just like, and it made me think that maybe there should be a movie like a Christopher Guest mockumentary of like an Academy Awards movie. Like, this is the day of the Oscars. Talk to me about your film. Well, it's a film about geriatrics getting loose. Kind of like Jurassic Park, a reimagining, but I made it more from my dad who's an asshole. You know, like something like that would be great.
Well, that's what I love, too, about, like, the films that, like, the way that they parodied, like, the Mother Teresa thing and Geriatric Park.
Sir Richard Attenborough for his musical based on the life of Mother Teresa. Mother.
Food! I love food, and I'm really in the mood for a big corn dog or poo-poo platter. Two ding-dongs, it doesn't matter. Handsome tuna helper, I'll be racing back the wall.
But the one thing that I fucking laughed the hardest at was, and I typed it out, and it's not completely accurate, but it's pretty accurate. It's Shannon Doherty. One woman's struggle against a yeast infection, set against the backdrop of the Buffalo Bills' terrible season, or whatever the fuck it was. Like, it's so random. Like, what?
That's one, Derek. The movie was made in '94.
Yeah, no, that season they're talking about is the '91 Buffalo Bills.
You said '99.
No, they lost. Well, maybe, but they lost the '91 fucking season. Yeah, no, I just watched this probably about 3 hours ago.
No, it's just funny because it's like that's not really anything that like is that funny, but it makes people laugh if they get it.
Well, they
say
what I
mean? Totally funny.
Like, they say but it's not like a humor that like again, it's not like a Judd Apatow where like you're making like a commentary on something. It's like a very specific detail that would only be funny to some people. Like that was the Zucker style. Like. Random, weird, fucking humor. They're weird people.
The geriatric park is amazing because fucking what's his name? O'Neill gets fucking smashed with a walker.
Walker?
The geriatric park. It's the guy. It's that old guy. And he's in like a trench coat. He's like, and he like smashes fucking. What's his name? Grant.
Yes.
Well, it would be, Grant. What is it? Grant Neal or?
It's Sam Neill is the actor.
Yeah, Sam Neill. No, it's Dr. Grant. Yeah,
Dr. Grant.
Yes. Wow, you compared the two together.
It's hard to remember Jurassic Park.
Is his name Neil Grant? Neil deGrasse Tyson? Who is it?
Neil deGrasse Tyson Grant. Not only did he study the stars, but he studied dinosaurs along with it.
I'd buy that action figure.
Wow. Michael Crichton is rolling over in his fucking grave right now, dude.
But, okay, so I guess in terms of that, we understand that the Oscar part of the movie is probably the best part of the movie, or it's the film's triumph, because it's random celebrities. You have, like, Raquel Welch, obviously Phil Donahue's mentioned.
Oh, yeah, and Raquel Welch at that time still looking hot as fuck. Like, holy shit. Like, good
the
God.
way they treat her in it, where like Leslie Nielsen just treats her like a buffoon, and then he's just like, he gives her the whole spiel about tuna and then cats.
And then he talks about the cats. He's like, we need to take care of the homeless. Skin those cats. And she's like, Jesus, Phil.
Take those cats and skin them. Use their fur to keep hundreds warm.
Jesus, Phil.
Like,
yeah. Which is sad
so
because
great.
I want to see the director's cut where it cuts to like Phil Donahue. He wakes up and he's like, "Yeah, I agree with that," because that seems like something Phil Donahue would do.
And the other thing is like, the focal points of them getting in are Vanna White and Weird Al, who were really a couple. And I think that's just so funny those are the people that they pick to be the ones that get their shit taken away.
Let's see. Vanna White and Weird Al Yankovic. Okay, enjoy the awards.
It's also one of those gags that like happens where that's the guy, and they do that like multiple times, like in trying to reference it, that's like what's fun about like random comedy movies is if there's a consistency of like using jokes and going back to jokes and making them like have a reference point. Like, that's the guy. Like, it's such a stupid thing, but it's like when you're seeing the people try to describe, they're like, well, he kind of looks like Phil Donahue. Like, that's the guy. Like, it's stupid. And then when it happens again, it's like, wow, how many people are like literally interacting to that point where they have to be like, that's the guy. Like, when does that ever happen to anybody where you have to point out somebody like that? It's just such a stupid thing, like, but it's funny. Like, that's why it's like entertaining.
I like how they like ripped off the Shawshank Redemption too, where they're trying to like get rid of
the dirt, stealing the dirt, moving the dirt.
And again, for the randomness, like it shows like a scene where he's like batting or whatever, and then like the guy pitches to him, and he's like on a mound, and then on top of that, the lines of the fucking the diamond go up the mound. Like, really, how does this happen? And then the guy like slides headfirst into the mound to try and become safe or whatever, and it's just like his feet sticking out, and he's like kicking around or whatever.
Well, that's what I mean. It's deliberately planned. Every frame, just for you acknowledging those subtle details, is planned out. Which I think a lot of newer directors, we talked about it with Die Hard, they're lazy. They're just like, we'll fix this in post. We'll get it done whenever. There's no real like labor of love to like really, really make a joke like Airplanes was really good at that, where everything happening in the background was hilarious too. It creates the rewatchability of something like this,
Right. Well, and I don't think it's necessarily like it's like a lazy aspect. I just think that filmmaking has become more of like a conveyor belt type thing. It's like an assembly line type thing. And it's much more difficult for individual people to have like a specific style on to do something. And I feel like a lot of new filmmakers, or at least people that like try to write or direct and try to merge into that, they kind of have to fall like into specific guidelines of what they should do, because that's how they're going to be employed. That's how they're going to like get, the recommendation to do another thing. it's tough to see. Like, I mean, that's why, like, I don't know the dude's name, but the guy that did the fucking Lighthouse and The Witch, like, great example.
You're talking about Eggers. Yeah.
Yeah. Eggers, a great example of somebody that has their own style and unique take on what they want to do, and they just do it. And it's like, you have to just deal with the random movie. Like, that's what's kind of missing from filmmaking now is everything has become like very assembly line to the point where you kind of already know what you're going into because you're not really given any expectation to think anything otherwise, you know? Like, it's nice when filmmakers can surprise you with stuff and do random shit. Like, one of the coolest random films that I ever saw was it was the fucking Aces
Smoking Aces.
Smoking Aces, yeah. Just a random film, had a great cast.
We're talking about Naked Gun. What is this guy talking
I know,
about?
Brandon.
What I'm talking about is
Dude,
what I'm talking about
why
is
aren't you bringing up the South Central Los Angeles fucking school?
because I'm trying to make a point of like the creativity of like direction and like the style of film. Like, at that time, I had never seen anything like Smoking Aces. That's my point, is like, that's what these films are. You're not really seeing like films that are like them. They're unique because they're just fucking random and weird. And they're enjoyable. The Zucker brothers did a great job with all of the stuff that they did, that they wrote and, you know, directed and fucking produced, whatever. Like, they had their style. They're like the Coen brothers, you know? They have their style. They fit on that, and it works some way.
Well, let me say that. I will say that since you referenced Coen Brothers. The new Coen Brothers movie, or the last one that came out on Netflix, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, watch it, people. It's really, really, really good.
Well, that's like vignettes, right?
Right, but you talking about what I talk about, labor of love. I remember telling my roommate the whole time, like, look at how this is shot. Look at how it's on location. Look at the set designs. Look at the costumes. Look at the, like, and you have your major actors in little vignettes, but at the same time, everything has its place.
Yeah.
It's a well done movie, and not bad for Netflix picking it up. But like, I'm just saying that some people have the patience or the education or ideology to do it, and some people, especially in comedy and horror, don't. But at the end of the day, this movie for me, and like all these kind of movies, like even Wrongfully Accused or Spy Hard or anything Leslie kind of did, they all had, every scene felt like a full roundabout gag. Whereas the Meet the Spartans or the other movies like that, they were just like, ooh, selfies are trending? Okay, we'll make fun of selfies, and we'll make fun of, you know, Facebook and social media posts. We'll make fun of, it's instead of being like, well, let's use this in our entire joke gag, in our reel.
Right. Yeah, so that's where those films could have actually been better, is if they actually like fleshed out their gags and made them more like running throughout the film. You know, I mean, like doing something small in a film that consistently comes up. I mean, it's like I wrote it down too, or I typed it out, like comedy comes in threes. There's something that they did with, I can't think of specifically where it's at. I'm trying to look for it, but they did like a comedy in threes thing. Like it's like the reference to that joke, and it's very obvious how they did it. But it's like all of the stuff that you know that works in these types of films. But how can we make it like absurd? So when you're watching it, it like you're not laughing at like what's happening. You're laughing at the fact that they put that into a movie and made that happen. You know, like that's where the real comedy comes from. Is like you're not expecting to see what you see, and then you laugh at it because it's just so stupid. Like that's what I got out of it.
For me, it's just smart. There's so many smart little references of things, of like really good comedy. Like even subtle comedy where he's meeting the scientist and they're talking about, where did you get this? Where'd you get that? And it's like, he's like, how did you know he's at Statesville Prison? He's like, here you go, Frank. And he gives him the paper and it says Statesville Prison on the top.
Well, actually, to go on that, so he's like, how'd you know that this was this? He's like, oh, we got the microfibers, and it says that it came from a plant in Oregon. Now, this plant supplies to Washington or whatever. And then he's like, oh, Washington. He's like, that's where we ran into a dead end. He's like, so how'd you get to the conclusion of this? He's like, oh, well, the actual paper itself just says like, you know, that there's a heading on it. And it says property of Statesville. It's like, wow, he just went through all this fucking explanation to only come to the conclusion that the fucking evidence was right there in front of him.
Yeah, like, I mean, and
Long gag.
yeah, that's what's funny is it's just so stupid.
Yeah.
But it works. But it works within the gag because you understand. And Derek, going back to Derek's thing of like, oh, like real police officers. Like, well, if you think real police officers are buffoons, then you are correct because they act like buffoons.
This does a wonderful job. Like the whole thing where he goes to like Q or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, let me just take that urine specimen off of your hands or whatever." And he's like, after he drinks,
he like spits it up because he thought he was like juice or whatever, and he was drinking it.
Yeah, like why would you drink that?
Yeah.
Because he's Frank Drebin. He's an
Well,
idiot.
one of the funniest parts to me that's like so fucking stupid is where when Lisa Marie Presley is doing the Thelma and Louise thing with her friend, and then she's like outside and like just like in Thelma and Louise, like the fucking like asshole dude like basically tries to like assault her, and he's like, oh, how you doing, baby? And she's like, oh, I'm good, like, oh, you know, whatever. And he's like, oh, she's like, no, I'm not interested. And he's like, don't you know, like, no means yes. So she's like, yes. And he's like, what do you mean, no? You know, like the whole reaction to like that whole thing is just, it's so stupid. And like, but it makes you laugh because it's so obvious. Like, it's just, it's not taking like any serious risk, but it's just being funny with the fact that it can be dumb. Like, it appreciates the fact that it can be dumb.
These people were actual comedic writers. They may have wanted to grow up and write for Mad Magazine, and then they did Hollywood instead. So
where's my pastrami sandwich?
Where's my bigoted pastrami sandwich?
I'm sorry, I love The Simpsons for that. That is.
I just watched that episode the other day, actually. Bring back my pastrami sandwich. Okay, so the last thing we have to talk about in our last 10 minutes here. This is right before the OJ thing. And OJ was pretty fucking funny. I mean,
he is a great like reaction character actor. He's great. Like,
character. No, Nordberg is a very solid character. From the first one where he has like the gun and he's like, oh, Nordberg, like cover me or whatever. And it just shows him throughout like 5 different scenes and he's building like different guns. So it starts out with a pistol, and then it's like a submachine gun. Then it's like a big-ass rifle. Then, like, it's an anti-aircraft machine, you know, that he, like, blows, like, a whole fucking section of the wall up. This is in the first one, ladies and gentlemen. And then he, like, blows it out, and he goes, oh, yeah, you know. He's got, like, the World War I helmet on, and he, like, takes it off, and he's like, oh, yeah, you know. Like, random skits like that. Nordberg is comedic gold. He could have had a wonderful comedic career.
He was The Rock before The Rock. Like, straight up.
Wow. Okay.
He was The Rock before The Rock. Like, OJ was not like a lead, but he was excellent in as far as for the Naked Gun movies. He was an excellent character actor. Like,
Rock is a lead now, though. The Rock is a lead.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is like he had the same type of like appeal. Like, he was well-known celebrity, and he was entertaining for the role that he had. Like, every time Nordberg is like with Chief Ed, he's like, "Here, Nordberg, like, do this," you know. Like, I mean, just the fact that like, and he would be like excited. He would be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do a puzzle or whatever." Like, it's just OJ. Like, if he didn't murder people, he could have like did well, you know. Like, it sucks. It's like one of those things because the dude was a good football player. He was an awesome football player, and then he did a fucking bang-up job at being a stupid idiot in acting and was a good character actor, and then he murdered people. Like, I mean, it just sucks because I wish that didn't happen. I wish the juice was good, was clean.
Frank, I feel really bad about all of this. If there's anything that you need.
Like Dr. Kevorkian's home phone number.
You know what, Bert? Put it together.
So, OJ, I know you might be watching this on your Twitter feed, and, you know, good day
Please.
to you. But
Tell me that you're going to fucking murder me.
No, it was a one crime of passion. It was one crime of passion. He wasn't a serial killer. So at the end of the day, guys, what do we give this movie on a grading scale? Let's start with Derek first.
Out of a scale from 1 to 10?
Said grading scale. God, you gotta learn to listen with those ears.
You said grading scale.
Grading
What?
scale.
1 to 10? What do you get a fucking 10 in math?
Because I'll tell you right now.
Is that how that works?
Because there you go. I was waiting for a fucking no audience to applaud.
Yeah.
No, but so I was watching this thing. Siskel and Ebert both gave it 2 thumbs down. I disagree with both of them, and I say 4 thumbs wide up for this film. This film is great. It's a good way to finish off the series. They wanted to do a 4th one, which would have been a prequel, which I don't know how you do a 4th one named Naked Gun 44 or 444.4 being a prequel, but it is what it is. But yeah, no, this film is definitely amazing. It's definitely better than the second one. There's a lot of running gags on there. It's slapstick comedy where you just kind of have to just turn your brain off and just allow the movie to just make fun of itself. You can't look too much into it. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background, so maybe you might want to watch it 2 or 3 times. But overall, it's a great film. You don't need to watch the other 2 to kind of know what's going on. You can just kind of turn it on and just watch it. It's great to have a lot of comedic elements. At that time, it's kind of a time capsule in itself because it gives you parts that were cultural references that were going on into like the mid-90s, late 90s, or actually I would say early 90s all the way up until late 90s. So overall, I would say this movie is amazing. The opening theme is clearly our opening theme, so we play great homage to what's his name? Paul
Ira Newborn, buddy.
Ira Newborn, there you go. So that's amazing in itself.
I was gonna say Paul Reiser.
No.
To Paul Reiser.
No. To be honest,
going on.
No. To be honest, I was gonna say Paul Newman, but I knew it wasn't Paul Newman. I knew it wasn't Paul Newman. I knew it was Paul something.
That wasn't Ira Paul. Newman. It was Ira.
Yeah, Ira. Whatever. Anyways,
Paul
Newman. Whatever. He had a very busy schedule, even until the end of his life.
All right, so what's the letter grade, you idiot? Come on.
Please don't call me an idiot.
Moron.
Please don't call me a moron.
Are you going to give it an 8?
I will give this an A+.
Oh, okay.
Aesthetic rating. I love this movie. Dude, Leslie Nielsen, honestly, a lot of things that Leslie Nielsen did, I will give a very high rating on.
Honestly, this is not like I said in the rewatch, it's not as good as I remember it being, and it's not like it's bad. It's very well done in the comedy, but there's like a good portion of the film that really drags. That is kind of not there's nothing really going on. It's kind of not really anything that catches your eye. Like Max, you said, the third act, basically just getting to the Academy Awards is really where the film becomes a thing. It could have just been a half an hour of just that, and that would have fucking worked. And it was amazing because everything was just hitting. I do think that Leslie Nielsen carries a lot of these types of films. He is just such a solid actor, and he's so great at playing things straight. even while absurdity is happening. He's great at how to do that. Like he's a legend. Like that, I mean, to me, the A+ goes to Dracula Dead and Loving It. And that's a Mel Brooks film. That's something that maybe we should do too, because that fucking movie I love. I've literally recommended that to everybody because it's so stupid. I can't stop laughing at how fucking dumb it is. But Leslie Nielsen carried that, just like with like a lot of these films. Like he definitely is the strong point. Like he knows how to give that played straight acting. And like to me, like the film's like a B. It's not great. And I think specifically with the style of humor, it's not going to appeal to everybody. Like it's kind of very specific humor. Like you have to kind of like be open-minded to getting it, because it's kind of obscure and weird and random. It's not going to tell you about things that you know. It's like random shit that like it's just funny because it's going on. And I wanted to bring up, because I typed it out, this in addition to Surf Ninja is 2 films where Leslie Nielsen squeezes his balls. Like just random.
Brandon is clearly thinking about Leslie Nielsen's balls at this point.
I'm just saying, I've never seen any actor do the same type of action of something like that in any other film, but Leslie Nielsen in both films squeezes his balls for some reason. Like, one is because he's pretending to like be like the other dancers because he fucking bashed in their balls, but Surf Ninjas is like his robot arm is like trying to strangle his balls, which is gross. It's like one of the most like ridiculous scenes I've ever seen in a PG movie ever. It's so fucking weird. I just think it's funny.
I can see Max screaming at this point, or he does, and now he's speechless. All right.
I'm just saying, I just find it random that in 2 different films, Leslie Nielsen squeezed his balls in pain. Like, who else does that?
I don't know, but Brandon notices.
Brandon noticed and wrote it in his notes.
I did.
In his dossier, in his big ass dossier.
Well,
I would say I give this movie first 2 acts, I give it like a B, and then the 3rd act with the Academy Awards, I give that a raving A+. I think that is just something that is comedic gold throughout the whole, like every point in cue. And I think even the creators of the filmmakers, when they were doing the movie, knew that they wanted to get to that point, because you can see like the labor of love in it. So
but you have like such celebrity like cameo, like fucking
like Paul Feig,
James Earl Jones.
He's not a
celebrity.
celebrity.
Love you, Coneheads. You too.
Lord, what's that?
Looks like Phil Donahue throwing up in a tuba.
And there's like subtle Hollywood digs in there. It's like the Best Picture nominees, and it's like 4 of these 5 movies were box office successes. 1 was not. And like then it's like when he goes, "It's the bomb," and everyone's like, "Oh, it's sawdust and mildew." Like,
yeah.
That's what it means. So A+, B averages out to a solid B+. So, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think overall it's a B-worthy film. It's not exceptional, but I think if you already appreciate that style of humor, you're going to really enjoy it, because it's very good about keeping that style of humor. It's just I don't think everybody is into that, you know?
Thanks for tuning in, and maybe we should watch Dracula Dead and Loving It. That's another good one. Who knows what we'll figure out next week? What other movie we'll figure out next week? But for now, go watch Naked Gun 33 1/3. It's on Amazon Prime, or you can, illegally download it. I don't care. They made their money. That movie was in 1994.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably find it for like $5, and at least if you purchase it for $5, you're paying for Leslie Nielsen's tombstone and/or coffin. So, I mean, you know.
Also, if you have the opportunity to watch the first 2, the first one is amazing.
On Netflix.
They're on Netflix. The 3rd one is on Amazon Prime, unfortunately. So if you do not have both services, then you should definitely purchase both services and stop being cheap.
Jesus,
or ask a friend.
Wrap it up, get the fucking camera, wrap it up.
I know. Okay, well, anyway, you can watch it. You can watch the first one on Netflix. You can watch the other one on Amazon Prime, which is the one we're talking about, 33 and the Third. The second one, you can, pick your poison and want to watch that. Robert Goulet is a bad guy. Not so good. But, yeah.
It's honestly like Die Hard. The second one, not good. Sorry, continue, Max.
Okay, we're leaving. Bye.
Later.